So we're always talking so often about the 7 cookies of Christmas, or the 8 cookies of Christmas, or the 13 cookies of Christmas. In the 1970s, Aftenposten newspaper in Oslo, Norway, did a survey on what the favorite 7 cookies were of Christmas. And out of those 7 cookies, we actually have 5 of them that we have artifacts that we will show in regards to the cookies. We'll be covering Fattigmann, Sunbuckles, Rosettes, Kurunzukaka, and Goro. And Goro, with being the oldest cookie that they have record of back into the 1600s, I also want to talk about the transition from using the irons in the fireplaces to the wood stoves, up right to the electric irons. So this is a Goro iron that I am going to show you. Again, all these cookies, butter, sugar, flour, maybe some milk and cream. Just shaped a little different and maybe have a little different flavoring in them. So Goro, again, is eggs, flour, and sugar, and a seasoning, probably cardamom. And the iron opens up like so. So you actually have 2 cookies in this one iron. They would mix the dough, then they would cut it out to the shape of the iron itself. They would heat the iron in the fire, and when the iron was nice and hot, they would put these rolled out cookies into each patterned piece on the Goro iron, and then they would bake them in the fire. I always think, why did a lot of Norwegian women were never really smiling in their pictures? Well, I wish that I could come out to each one of you and show you how heavy this is. Because if you were making cookies for a holiday and you had to hold this over the wood fireplace, I'm sure they leaned it on something, but they are heavy. They are cast iron. So it took a lot of patience and time to make their Christmas cookies for their holiday season. So that was the oldest cookie that we have. And the second oldest cookie that we have on record was the Kurunzukaka. Again, it has eggs, flour, sugar, and a seasoning and butter. Here's the pan for the Kurunzukaka. And you can see the nice pattern that you have on this Kurunzukaka iron. It also said that you can tell where some of the Kurunzukaka came from because the blacksmiths that made these irons had their own type of pattern. So if you at Ole Olsen was the blacksmith, he may have a certain pattern on his. And a lot of times too, some of these patterns would ward off bad and protect the baked good that's being made inside. So we've gone from the fireplace when we're looking at the Goro iron. Next we go to the wood stove. This would actually fit on top of the hole in the wood stove with the Kurunzukaka iron on top of this. And you would have to turn this over in order to make sure that it baked on both sides. Once that cookie is baked to how you want the color, you'd pull it off, and when it's hot, you would quick roll it up on your wooden form so that you have a nice cone shape. Kurunzukaka means curved cookie. Krum is curved, so you'd have that curved shape of your cookie. Now there's like rummegrøt and fløtegrøt. There's also a difference between Kurunzukaka and strull. Kurunzukaka has eggs in it, and it's on a cone shaped as such. Strull does not have eggs in it. It's made with cream and sugar and flour, and it's formed on a dowel. So you'd have the perfectly round ones for strull and your cone-shaped ones for Kurunzukaka. Again, the words in old recipe books and recipes passed down are interchangeable, but that is, if you want to be politically correct, that's the difference between Kurunzukaka and strull. Then another cookie we have for special holiday time are the Rosettes. This is a really delicate cookie. Again, the dough is made with a milk or a cream and sugar and flour. Of course, you always have to put a little bit of your brandy in this particular batter. Actually, the alcohol in that helps to make it crisp, but we always say that, you know, they never wanted to drink their alcohol, so they had to say it was for baking or medicinal purposes only. So the batter would be much thinner. You'd take the iron, heat it in a hot fat. When it's nice and hot, you would put it into the batter and then put it into your pot of very hot lard. And that would cook or fry the rosette, and it would take the shape of this iron. We have a round iron here, and in earlier days, the irons would be also shaped like a cross. And with this delicate cookies, as soon as they're nicely browned in that hot lard, you would take them out. And some people nowadays will sugar them with plain sugar to decorate them up a little as well. Then another favorite cookie of the 7 favorite Christmas cookies is the Sunbuckles, or the sand tarts. And these are made in Sunbuckle tins, which are a fluted round tin. It could be a heart shape, or it could be a shell shape. There are other shapes as well. This is made out of a cookie dough. Again, just a little different measurements. The sugar, butter, flour. Some people make them with ground almonds, and some people make them with almond extract. In earlier days, they would have definitely used ground almonds in with their dough for the Sunbuckles. They are then fluted with your fingers into the tins like so, baked in the oven, and when they're nice and golden brown, they're popped out and they are served as a nice cookie. Then we have another one called fattigmann. Fattigmann means poor man, but it wasn't necessarily a poor man's food. It was considered a food that was in higher regards in earlier days. This is a modern roller that's used for the dough. It's a very, again, delicate, moist dough. You roll it out, and then you either use like a pastry cutter that has a little fluted edge on it, and you cut your cookies into diamonds. And then you cut a slit in the middle. This does the same thing in one step. So once you take that diamond, very delicate dough again, you would take that and you will drop it in your hot fat. Some people will take the tips of the diamond and put them through that slit in the middle, which this one does make, or you'd make it by hand with the old pastry roller. And then they would fry it so you get more of a knot. Some just fry it flat. But those are the fattigmanns, another older cookie. And this is a very big favorite of the immigrants when they came over here and made these for Christmas. The Rosettes were not as popular in Norway towards the end of time as they were in the United States here. Rosettes grace a lot of tables at the Christmas season. And your Goro is a cookie that is making a comeback. I think a lot of it too is that people are going to electric irons now. You have the wood fireplace, you have the wood stove, and from there you would have your electric irons. Goro does not have an electric iron in this country as of yet, although it does in Norway. So I think that's one reason for convenience, that maybe we haven't been as popular with the Goro, although it is getting more popular. So these are some of the cookies that are very famous for the holiday season. And now we're going to go to the Kurunzukaka. We're going back to a very popular cake that has been used in Norway for decades and even centuries, and it's called the Kransekake. It's not a Norwegian cake, even though people claim it to be Norwegian. It actually came from Renaissance Italy, and it moved from Italy up into Germany, and from Germany it moved up into Denmark and was very famous in Denmark for a length of time before it moved its way up into Sweden and Norway. It was made in different capacities. Of course, if you had the almonds, it was made with ground almonds, a white sugar, and some egg whites. It was a marzipan, and it was shaped into rings. So these are the modern day Kransekake rings. Actually, the Norwegians talk about having several more rings than in earlier days when they only had 8 or 9 rings. But each of these rings, as you can see, is graduated. And when these are baked, they will be formed on top, one on top of each other, to make a pyramid. So the history is kind of fun with this. It took me a long time to find out where the Kransekake actually came from, and it wasn't until a professor from Luther College, whose wife is Danish, did some research, and he said yes, they came into Denmark, but they came by way of Italy, in through Germany, and up to Denmark, and then into the Nordic country. Almonds were not always available to people of the rural culture, and so they may make theirs out of butter and flour, more like a cookie dough or even a puff pastry dough, where the more well-off to do in earlier days made theirs with ground almonds. Some included rose water, some included plum seeds ground in along with their ground almonds, and when they were put together, ring over ring, so here is the largest ring and here you see is the smallest ring. They would even have like a strawberry type jam that they would put between the rings to glue them together. Nowadays we use powdered sugar and egg white and a little vinegar so that it holds them in place. But back then they would use different jams as well to hold the rings together. And so this is called the Kransekake. It made a very nice centerpiece for wedding tables, for confirmations and baptisms. And in serving this cake, you would start from the bottom ring and you would go work your way up, so you always had that perfect pyramid. So you'd start with the bottom ring, you would break it into pieces, put it on a plate, and then work up towards the top ring. That's the Kransekake. So you could have put it on one of our pedestal plates to bring to your special occasion for serving. Whether it's the cookies or it's the Kransekake, or you may have other types of baked goods, or it could be butter, they were often brought to special occasions in a sending basket. This could be filled with goodies that could go to a mother with a newborn baby. They could go again to weddings, to funerals, because the guests would always bring a gift to these celebrations. The cloths on the sending baskets would cover the different food articles, and sometimes they would have symbols for the different church holidays, whether it's for a wedding or a baptism or a funeral. And then it was fastened around with a woven band. And this would be the basket that they would carry to their special occasions. The sending basket.